Hey everybody, what's going on? Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. It's movie time.
Yep.
As usual.
Yep.
And Xánada is here in the chat. So Xánada has sent us this Blu-ray right here.
Yeah. Right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Django Unchained from 2012. Obviously Quentin Tarantino's movie. I think this was the only Tarantino movie that I had never seen. And I don't know how I managed to not see it, because I usually would see all of his movies as soon as they came out, but for whatever reason I had not seen this one.
It's an epic flick on a bunch of different levels happening at the same time. It's a spaghetti western. It's got comedy in it. It's real violent. It's in some ways historically accurate, in other ways it's fucking real over the top. He's just he's embracing kind of like the spaghetti western motif or the theme, you know,
right,
to stay within that genre. But he does it real well. It's got real good acting. Jamie Foxx knocks it out of the park. Leonardo DiCaprio, he fucking kills it in one of the scenes.
He needs to play more villains.
Yeah. And then Samuel L. Jackson, okay, delivers a fucking impressive performance as one of the biggest villains in this movie. He's a slave who's just kind of learned to, he's so selfish, he just empowers himself through that system to become probably the main villain, probably more evil than the Leonardo DiCaprio.
I have seen arguments that he is actually the main villain, not Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and I can understand that. You're
not sure who's in charge. He might be in charge.
Right, yeah.
He might be the power behind the throne.
Because he raised him. He raised Calvin Candy, the Leonardo DiCaprio's character is called.
They were in total symbiosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people say, well, he's just an Uncle Tom. No, he's a lot more than that.
Well, did you notice, too, that you know how he limped around with the cane and all that other kind of stuff? He didn't really have to do that.
No.
And he didn't talk like that, either. He only talked like that in front of everybody, but when he was just talking to Leonardo DiCaprio, he talked normal.
Yeah. Yeah, he was far more intelligent. And he was more intelligent than his master.
Yeah, because Leonardo DiCaprio's character was not that bright.
No.
He was like a kind of person that like thought he was really intelligent and cultured, but really wasn't.
No, yeah, he was faking.
He was a big poser.
Yeah, he was a poser. and really fucking what was his character's name?
Which one?
The slave.
Stephen.
Stephen, yeah. Stephen probably he definitely ran the plantation.
Mm.
Yeah, he was the butler. But he basically ran the business. When DiCaprio wasn't around, punished everybody, kept order, fucking saw through shit, helped negotiate business deals, and he just protected the plantation. For him, his whole fucking identity was that damn plantation.
Yeah.
And he was a hater too. Fucking at the end, you know. Django, they gonna catch you. What, you think one gunfighter can kill all these white folks? They gonna get you, you know, as he's dying and shit. It was a good one.
Well, he hated Django specifically, I guess, because he saw like his mirror image. He was like the evil mirror image of Django.
Yeah, Django was free.
Whereas Django used his intelligence and cunning and skills and stuff like that to fight back against this oppressive system. Stephen used the oppressive system to his own benefit, to the detriment of everyone else.
Yeah, just total selfishness.
Yeah, and I think on some level he recognized that, which is why he hated Django so much.
Yeah, but it's a good flick. So we're going to start with it.
Oh my gosh, anywhere. But yeah, like I said, I think this might have been the only Tarantino movie that I had not seen, and like I said, I don't know how I didn't see it, but I'm gonna say, I don't know. This is hard to say. This might be my new favorite Tarantino movie. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all good though.
The ones that I like, I like. It's in the ones I don't like, I don't like. I'm gonna put this one in the light category, up there with, you know, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a masterpiece also.
Yeah, I love that one too.
I'm gonna put it in that genre. The ones I don't like Kill Bill. I didn't like Inglourious Bastards. Some of the shit's just too over the fucking
I
top.
liked Inglourious Bastards. I saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. It is slightly too over
silly.
the top for my taste. Which this one has some of that too. Because this is the one that came out after Inglourious Bastards. But I kind of feel like I don't even want to say he reins shit in. Because Tarantino doesn't rein in shit.
Yeah.
But I think the tone of it worked better with this. Because is this over the top? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For some reason, it just worked better for me this time around. Maybe it was the ensemble actors, that were different than the other movie. I'm not really sure. But it's just kind of like, there was just something about them that really appealed to me. And the crazy thing about it is that fucking Tarantino, this mad motherfucker, made a movie about fucking antebellum slavery, pre-Civil War slavery, that is also... that in a way gets across the horror of it better than a serious movie would, and is also fucking hilarious in a way that you kind of feel bad for laughing, but not really. Yeah. And it's just, and I don't know, it's like really hard to explain. This was it, and it's crazy that he made a movie that's this entertaining about such a horrific subject. But it can be done.
It's taking place a couple years before the Civil War in Mississippi.
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly, yeah. And I'm from Mississippi. So, and it did point out certain things about Southern culture that still exist today, which I fucking love that. Like in Leonardo DiCaprio, what's the character's name again? I forgot.
Calvin Candy.
Calvin Candy, that's right.
Monsieur Candy.
Yeah. So Candy's this fucking over the top, flamboyant, kind of fake, rich guy who he really likes shit that's French, but he doesn't know anything about it really.
No.
He doesn't know. He just pretends to know shit, and it does kind of point out that everything I know about old plantation culture, it was almost kind of like a pimp culture in a way, about how fine your slaves were dressed, how much money you had, how fucking fucking well you treated your people, but also how much you could punish them if they got out of line. It was kind of like something from cross between like Roman culture, and it was kind of like a recreation of medieval serfdom, really, where you had a king or a lord who owned the land and his serfs were on it, and he was trying to be a good king or a good lord, but it wasn't about his people really, and the slaves. It was about his image in the eyes of the other lords.
That's all it was.
That's all really it was. You know what I mean? And they were tended to be showy and all about keeping up appearances. And this guy, the fucking Candy, he personifies it fucking perfectly. And there's a key part of this story, which kind of, and I've said it many times on the show about, the culture of the Deep South. It is not a legalistic culture. It's an honor culture. And that's really where it gets down to in this story. To seal this deal, he's a total fucking asshole. All right. It's a long story. I'll let Jen get into it. But when he seals the deal, he wants this German dude to shake his hand. And he says, this paperwork and everything we've done doesn't mean anything to me, really. The only thing that means that the deal is done is my handshake. And the dude didn't want to shake his hand. He didn't respect him. And because he didn't shake the hand, a fucking gunfight fucking broke out. And they went through hell, and they didn't get Django's wife back. He could have, but it was two pig-headed dudes. One of them that was a fucking honor culture-based dude, and another dude that was more legalistic and moral. For him, it was moral reasons.
I loved that.
And they got into an impasse.
Yeah. I loved that scene, too, because they're like you said, and this is going to be spoilers, because this movie is more than 10 years old. But when Christoph Waltz's character, Dr. Schultz, when he just shoots him, and he didn't have to do that, but I just love that he just kind of turns toward Django and he said, I couldn't resist.
Can't resist
like he couldn't take it anymore.
Couldn't take it. Yeah.
He couldn't take it anymore.
It was just too cultural.
He knew he was going to get killed.
Yeah.
You could see that in his face. He knew that he was going to get killed.
And
but he just couldn't
lost
stand
the girl,
it.
Though too.
He couldn't stand it anymore.
he did not want to be humiliated by shaking that dude's hand.
Yeah.
Okay, but it cost Django his wife for a while. He had to come,
she does get her back.
It was not he eventually gets her back, but another thing is I still liked it though, because you had two dudes that were just fucking in a moral deadlock against each other. They just, you know what I mean, and that's what caused the problem.
Yeah.
You know? Had dude shaked his hand, it just would probably been over, and then that would have been the end of the movie.
We were talking about this last night because he's like, if he would have just like sucked it up and shook his hand, they could have just left. I was like, well, one, then they wouldn't have had the big awesome shootout at the end. But I was like, but also on the other hand, I'm just kind of like, I got the impression, and maybe I could be wrong, I got the impression that Candy had no intention of letting them leave.
No, he was going to let them leave.
I didn't think he was going to let them leave.
He was going to let him leave because he got the paperwork done. And Django's wife was only worth $300. They just paid, what was it?
$12,000.
$12,000.
Which somebody
on forced into paying $12,000.
Wikipedia helpfully pointed out is more than $420,000 in today's money.
Yeah. He didn't care about the wife. He just wanted the money.
Yeah.
And he also wanted to win. He wanted to win the argument and the negotiation. And he didn't feel that he won it until the German dude shook his hand to seal the deal. And he knew that was in a way kind of yielding to him.
Yeah, he wanted to humiliate him because he knew that dude couldn't stand him.
Right, knew he couldn't stand it. He's like, you're going to shake
my
hand.
It was a power play.
It was a power thing. He wouldn't do it. He killed him instead.
Well, he had Dr. Schultz had the strength of his convictions. He's like, I can't, in good conscience, shake this man's hand because he's monstrous.
Yeah.
So like he just couldn't do it.
It put that woman in danger, though. He should have sucked it up and fucking shook his hand. But I think Candy knew that he couldn't do it. That's why.
I think that's why. Because Candy was kind of stupid, but he was
he was very good
cunning
about people.
He was very cunning
and about power play.
Yeah,
he was very much about power and forcing himself onto you. He was that kind of a bully.
I did love that whole short scene, like shortly before that happens, where Dr. Schultz is talking about, are you into Alexandre Dumas? Because I know you're really into French stuff. And one of the slaves who got torn apart by dogs was named D'Artagnan. And he's just like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like not knowing that Alexandre Dumas was a black man. And like him saying that, like, kind of blew his mind.
He didn't know that. Yeah,
because he didn't know.
Yeah, he loved Dumas. He loved fucking Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
He didn't know it was written by a black dude.
Yeah.
Black Frenchman. No, I like that angle of the flick. Having roots in the deep south of Mississippi. It's changed some. It's a little bit more legalistic than it was when I was a little kid. But my grandparents' era and my dad's era to a certain extent in the deep south, it was like other tribal areas in, say, other parts of the world where it was almost like mafias. That's where all that boss hog stuff comes from.
Or like Don Johnson's character in this movie, which somebody brought up earlier.
Yeah, I forgot who he played.
He was he was Big Daddy at the first plantation they went to, where the Brittle brothers were.
Yeah.
And remember, he had the white suit, and he was kind of talking like Foghorn Leghorn a little bit.
Yeah. That was a old cracker.
He was great. Yeah. He was great in this.
Right.
And that whole scene, like after Schultz and Django like shoot the brothers.
Yeah.
And then leave, and then the Big Daddy and like all his peeps like come after them with the hoods on and everything like that. It wasn't the Klan because this is pre-Klan. What are they called? It starts with an R. I'll think of it in a minute. But they had a different name, but it was like a similar kind of thing. So they all come there with the hoods, and then there's that fucking fantastic scene where they're all sitting there like
fighting over
the eye holes and like how they can't see out of them and stuff like that. And then the one dude getting butt hurt because his wife made all the hoods, and now they're like shitting on all her work. And it's, well, you guys' wives didn't do anything about it. Yeah. And it's so funny. I think what's so funny about it is that, and what I was saying before about how because I don't know this. I mean, the movie was controversial, I guess, when it came out, but it was pretty critically lauded. I mean, it got like 5 Academy Award nominations. It won a couple. I think it won screenplay. I think Christoph Waltz won for supporting actor, and so it's not like that. But there were a couple people that came out like that said that they thought it was irresponsible or whatever. But in a way, like I said, movies about slavery. You know, you could argue that you can't really make that. I don't know if I'd call this a comedy, but it is like super, super funny and like super entertaining. But in a way, I think that juxtaposing the funny shit, like the darkly funny shit, against the actual, because all of the violence and stuff done against the slaves is realistic. It's either realistic or it's done off screen. Like all of the over the top violent shit is done against the slavers. You know what I mean? So I think that they really did a good job. I mean, again, you know, you can laugh at that, of course, because those are villains. Like when Zach was saying that it's like one of his funniest gags was when Django shoots Laura, the sister of Calvin, and she goes flying like back in the fucking room and shit like that. Which is that was fucking great. Yeah, say goodbye to Miss Laura or whatever her name was, and then she's like, goodbye, Miss Laura, and they're like, pow, and she just goes flying back in the fucking room. But yeah, so it's like, so all of that was like really over the top. But like I said, the violence against the slaves was more realistically portrayed. Yeah. So I think that they did a good job of the funny shit, like highlighting the horror of the other shit.
Yeah.
Which is a really hard balance to pull off, but I think he did a good job doing that.
Yeah. People are talking about the accuracy of certain things in there. The only thing that kind of I didn't really think was, I mean, there's a lot of it's meant to, some of the shit's meant to be funny.
It's a revisionist Western. Although actually Tarantino said he's like, actually it was based on spaghetti westerns, but he's like, it's more like a Southern.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what he called it.
Southern spaghetti western.
Yeah. That's what he wanted to do. Because he's like, what? He's like, I wanted to make a movie about slavery, but not like a big serious issue film. I wanted it to be like a genre film.
If you look at it really at its essence, it's a Southern version of Zorro.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that later on, like a year or two after this movie came out, they actually did a graphic novel series of Django and Zorro.
Okay, yeah, it's the same character.
Yeah.
It's just essentially, and it even has the same genesis where he has a older teacher who gives him all his training, and you know, because Django was just a slave, and then he got free, and he became a bounty hunter. And he was a bounty hunter for about a season, wasn't it? And they got a whole
it was like over the winter, and they caught a bunch of, or they killed a bunch of outlaws, so they made like a bunch of money. Yeah,
so Django doesn't just like appear fully formed. You know, he actually earns his street cred as a bounty hunter and he practices shooting and everything. And
Regulators, thank you, Xánada. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, the Regulators. That was like the pre-clan.
But he was so he has a genesis a lot more like Zorro.
Yeah.
The character is basically kind of a retelling of Zorro in a way. The thing that was a little bit silly is and you can go to Bass Reeves, who he was a black lawman.
We did a show about him a few weeks back.
He was a real dude. Now, when Django shows up riding on a horse, people were freaking out that, hey man, black people can't ride horses. That's not true. They
weren't really saying that. They were just saying, who's that N-word on that horse?
Yeah. Black people rode horses if they were free, and they had horses. You know, they probably rode horses on farms, you know, if they were on plantations, to ride around the plantation and stuff. Just depending on whether or not they were allowed to. But the Bass Reeves, if you listen to his story, during the time of slavery, a free black person basically could do whatever he wanted.
Although he was out west, so it was kind of more. And it was a little bit of a different situation.
I think in the South it probably would have been okay for the most part. Just depended on there were probably certain places that had been dangerous for you to go, but the law I don't think would have anything against it, because you had free blacks that owned plantations too during that time.
Well, yeah, and they kind of go into a little bit in this film, like there were such a thing as black slavers, because they do mention it in this, and Django actually goes undercover to Candy's plantation, Candyland,
Yeah.
pretending to be a black slaver,
Yeah.
essentially, and that's not like a weird thing, you know.
Right. During the times of slavery, there wasn't any segregation. Segregation was a way of keeping blacks and whites separate after slavery. And Baz Reeves said he didn't have any problems moving around, and people liked him. You know, he was a big old black dude with big old fucking hands and could fucking throw his fist, and he was good with guns and was honest, and everybody liked him. He said it wasn't until after slavery it got rough on him. He couldn't arrest white people anymore.
Yeah,
that's too much trouble. You know? So during this time, dude like Django wouldn't have had a big problem. Now, maybe being in Mississippi, that might have been a problem. But
yeah, because they didn't really show him, like when him and Dr. Schultz were riding around doing the, doing the bounty hunter shit. Like when I don't know where they were supposed to be. They shot it in California and in Wyoming. But like when they really didn't say like it was bad until like they went back to Mississippi, back to the plantation to try to get his wife back.
Yeah. But I'm going back and I'm thinking, no, I don't think it'd have been a problem. Like I said, they had free blacks running their own farms right next to white people running farms. There was intermarriage going on between teenagers and shit. It was pretty normal. It wasn't until after slavery and then Jim Crow laws and segregation happened. That's when it got weird. Which is strange to say that slavery wasn't weird. Just that the main distinction was whether or not you were free or slave, not so much black or white per se. You know, if you were black and you're about your business and people liked you wouldn't have a problem. Because there was a lot of people like that.
CB said, in the film, it is implied that Candy is fucking his sister. I kind of got that vibe, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of got that
It was implied
vibe.
he was fucking everybody.
Well, that too, but I mean, I kind of feel like they really did the whole thing with the sister.
Yeah.
Because, like, he comes to the plantation, the first thing he says is, like, where's my sister? Like, he's all, like, he's, like, kissing her on the mouth and stuff like that. And I was like, weird. Okay. Yeah. See, I don't kiss my brothers on the mouth. That's weird.
Yeah. Now, they were talking about, they were in the movie, Candy, he likes to, his side gig is to basically gladiator sports.
Mandingo fighting.
Mandingo fighting. That's where you buy black fighters and fight them against each other.
To the death.
Now, they showed it, one that they showed was to the death. Now, I don't know if that's true.
It is largely not. Where he got that idea from, there was quite a famous blaxploitation film that came out in 1975 called Mandingo. And it's sort of kind of in a tiny bit based on a real thing, but there's not really much historical evidence saying that they, fought slaves against each other for the reason that you brought up, because slaves were not cheap. So it would be dumb to like have like the best ones like fight against each other to the death, unless it was like cockfighting and you were getting people like to pay a bunch of money betting.
We see.
I mean, I guess that
what was
might be
more
something.
normal was just to get Irish to fight each other. They were called pro fighters.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
And they were willing to fucking go into the fight for the prize money.
Right. But like I said, so I kind of feel like it's more because it's Tarantino, so he's gonna he's gonna go back to like the genre movies of the 60s and 70s that he loves, and so he's making an homage to Mandingo from 1975, which was based on an earlier novel, I believe. And actually most of the a lot of this film too was based on the 1966 film Django, which was an Italian film, Sergio Corbucci. And the plot is not exactly the same. It's kind of similar in that like two people team up and go do stuff, but it's not exactly the same. But that's where he got the idea from. Because he said he first got the idea for this movie when he was writing a book about Sergio Corbucci. And he was talking about all the westerns that he had made, and he said, I just really liked the way that he did these kind of evil Wild West, like this evil Wild West, and he's like, and I wanted to make a movie like that, but like with slavery, because no one had really done that ever. So that's where he got the idea for this, because he wrote this script like back in 2007 or something like that. So it took a while like for it to get made. But as I said, even the theme song of this, the Django theme song that was at the beginning, was the theme song from the original movie from 1966. There was a lot of original music done for this movie, but that one was not. That one was actually from the original film.
Jamie Foxx does a great job, and he looks great in this fucking outfit. They put him in a short jacket with a fucking flat brimmed hat, flat top on it. Wasn't it a flat top?
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah. Yeah, he looked fucking slick in it. It's not the first outfit he picks, though. As soon as he gets freed, he gets some money, he buys some fucking stupid looking Lord Byron looking shit. Big old fucking tie. Blue silk. People don't fucking take him seriously.
Well, yeah. First. They based that on that famous painting, The Blue Boy.
Blue Boy, yeah.
Is what... Well, and what they wanted to say... Like, I don't know... I'm sure Tarantino probably... Because he's like a total cinephile. And he's seen all the movies. And he's, you know... He's really versed in filmic language, I guess. But I've seen a lot of other reviewers say that they wanted the outfit at first to look kind of quote-unquote ridiculous. Because one of the things that's kind of an underlying theme of this... Which I wanted to bring up earlier when you were talking about Candy and how he was pretending to be French and all this other kind of stuff, was that one of the themes of this movie is how, like, this civilized veneer is, you know, just covers up this horrible brutality. Like, these people are trying to look civilized and genteel and everything like that, but really they're, like, the worst of the worst. And so they wanted to, like, subvert that a little bit with this black man coming out, like the first time you see him in clothing that he's picked for himself in like this super pimpin' like bright blue, like I said, like blue boy looking. Yeah, like because they wanted to kind of highlight how you can kind of dress up how the bad guys were trying to like dress up their brutality underneath this veneer of civilization kind of thing. But yeah, so I can see what they're saying with that. But I thought it was a cool outfit, honestly. But you could kind of see why that was kind of a funny.
It looked foppish.
Well, yeah, but that's what was kind of funny about it. Like, it's funny, but there's also kind of like a deeper meaning to it, I guess. But because it was the first time that he had ever gotten to choose his own clothes.
Yeah.
You know.
And then there were some other good black characters in it too. He had this little maid that answered the door in a little damn short maid's outfit, and all she did was she was just eye candy, running around being shocked by everything. Then he had another girl who was what was her name? She was real slick looking chick. It was like his mistress, I guess.
Yeah, she wasn't in it much.
She wasn't in it much, but she was just back there fucking thinking all this shit was fucked up.
Just kind of lounging around with a martini or whatever.
Yeah, these dudes are fighting each other to the death, and she's back there basically yawning.
Whatever.
Like she's way above it, you know.
Well, I'm sure she sees the same kind of shit.
Yeah, she'd been seeing it all the time. It was all old hat to her.
Right.
But she was also felt like she was better than everybody else, though, too.
Yeah.
I picked that up.
Yeah, that too.
That she was actually running the show.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's like a lot of shit going on in this movie. Like with all the background characters and stuff like that, they all got like their own thing going on.
Yeah,
you know.
But the vibe I got from that one, and they said her name, Sheba. Wasn't it Sheba?
Oh, maybe
her
it
name
was
Sheba.
No, I can't. Yeah, he said her name a couple times.
Yeah, I think her name was Sheba. Sheba's attitude is that she played all men. She could control them all.
Yeah.
So
she just like whatever.
Fuck it. Yeah. She thought she was just immune to everything, which she probably was.
Although, wait until she gets like kind of older and fat.
Yeah, yeah, true.
You're not gonna have that.
Yeah, but by then,
too much longer.
But by then, Candy would have been old and fat too.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
He was the one with all the money. Yeah. So as I mentioned, and Phantom brought this up when I mentioned that this was slightly kind of inspired by the movie just called Django from 1966. The guy that played the original Django, Franco Nero, had a cameo in this movie. He was the guy when they first go to Candyland, the other guy like at the bar. You know what I mean? Where Django is talking to him. Yeah, it was that guy. So again, so many. Oh, speaking of cameos, I saw you in there, Tom Savini. I saw you, and he was in it for like 2 seconds. Isn't this funny? Like, in the scene where D'Artagnan, the slave, the runaway, he's one of the Mandingo fighters, and he runs away, and there's this whole, like, horrible little tense scene, because you know the dude's not going to make it. And this whole scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is, like, talking about, you know, I paid a lot of money for you, and, you know, I need to get 5 fights out of you, and blah, blah, blah. And then he just has him torn apart by dogs, and it's horrible. They don't, like, show it, like, a little bit. They do, but Just you can kind of imagine it by everybody's like reactions and stuff. But the thing about that is that I kind of forgot where I was going with that. What was I saying before that? Shit, man. Sucks getting old, I guess. Yeah. Oh, and one of the guys that was like one of the dogs, I guess they were one of the trackers that chased the slaves when they ran away. And I was looking at it, and it was just in the background. And I said, is that Tom Savini? And so I was like, I don't know. I was like, that looks like fucking Tom Savini. Well, and I mean, Tom Savini was in From Dusk Till Dawn, right? Yeah. Like, he played Sex Machine. So I was like, well, I'm going to think that's Tom Savini. And then I saw him later. I'm like, maybe it's not Tom Savini, because I kind of saw him from far away. But then I looked at the credits, and yeah, it absolutely was Tom Savini.
Xánada's asking if we like this one better than Hateful Eight. I really can't really compare the two.
I like Hateful Eight, but yeah. I think I like this one a lot better.
I'd say they're about the same, because they're different. The tones are different. They're both good westerns.
This is way funnier than Hateful Eight's pretty funny too, but this one is just, I don't know, something about this one just kind of, everything about this one like really kind of, and it's long. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that, and it did not seem long at all. It just seemed like a fucking breeze, because it was just so entertaining. Like, the characters were so entertaining. It was like fucking funny. There was always something going on.
I'd say Django Unchained is, like I said, it's more like a spaghetti western.
Yeah.
All right, it has that angle. Hateful Eight is more like a Clint Eastwood movie. More like Outlaw Josie Wales or something. You know, it has a tone more like that.
It's not quite as exaggerated.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
I mean, it's still exaggerated because it's Tarantino.
Yeah. There's something about that tone, though. It felt more like a Clint Eastwood movie. A little bit more serious.
Slightly. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was... Well, weird shit happens in it, but weird shit happens in real life, too.
That's true.
You don't have any over-the-top gore, from what I remembered in Hateful Eight.
Because this one was ridiculously gory. Ridiculous. People getting shot with shotguns and like flying backwards, and it's just like,
I'd say they're about the same.
People getting blown up.
I'd say I'd like them about the same, but the movies are different. The tone's very different.
Yeah, I love Hateful Eight, but I think I like this one better. Like I said, other than, man, I was gonna say this might be my favorite Tarantino film now, but I'm not sure, because man, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was so good. Pulp Fiction is so good. Man, it's hard to pick. But this one's so fucking good, and I can't believe I didn't see it like back in the day. I missed out, because, like I said, who would have thought that a movie about fucking slavery would be this entertaining?
It's not really about that.
It's not really. It's a revenge.
It's a revenge flick. It's more like a Zorro movie.
Yeah.
The guy getting revenge is an ex-slave, but he's bounty hunter, kind of like a Bass Reeves type thing going on.
It is kind of, yeah. I was thinking that while I was watching it.
And he's in the South, and he's trying to rescue his wife, who they got her on a plantation. He's trying to get her out of there, you know. And that's why he became a bounty hunter, under the agreement that, you know, to help out the German guy. What was his name?
Dr. Schultz.
Dr. Schultz. Help Dr. Schultz so he can do all these bounties. And then by then he'd be strong enough with his skills to go save her. And Schultz basically explains what's going on in the analogy of Siegfried. And it's kind of a retelling of Siegfried.
Siegfried and Brunhilde.
Yeah,
Brunhilde. Because his wife's name is also Brunhilde.
Yeah, his wife's name is Brunhilde. She speaks German. She learned German because her original holder was a German woman who taught it to her. But they had no use for German-speaking slaves, you know, in the South. So she didn't have a high value or anything. She kept running away. So he said she was appraised at about $300.
Yeah, which is a lot of money back then, but it's still not.
But they couldn't just go in there and ask for her, because he had inflated the price. So they went there under a ruse to buy Mandingos.
Yeah.
And they were going to spread a lot of this money around. They're probably never going to pay it, though. And then, as an afterthought, they were going to pick her up. They were trying to get her on cheap.
Because Schultz had a good in for that, because he's actually German, And he's like, oh, I heard you have a slave that speaks German. Right. I would really like to purchase her so that, you know, we could do the sexy time and we could talk together and stuff like that. So he had a good in for, like, asking about it. But, of course, the whole plan goes horribly wrong. Spoiler alert. But yeah, like I said, they had a good in for it. But, and, you know...
yeah, Steven figures out, hold on.
Yeah, Steven figures the whole thing out.
She knows Django. Fucking, he can sense it.
That's the thing about Candy. Yeah. Even though he's supposedly really good at reading people and stuff, he didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
Steven did.
Yeah.
His quote-unquote slave picked up on that and told him.
Yeah, he shut the negotiations
down. He's like, those bitches
down,
know each other.
I need to talk to you about this cake. You know?
Yeah.
They tried to get him out of there, and then they meet up together to have a quick conference. And then Steven all of a sudden doesn't sound like a slave at all. He just
talks like regular, and he's got like the brandy and everything.
Bitch knows him. You know, I bet you that's his wife.
He figured it all out.
He figured it all out. Yeah, he did the interrogation and everything.
Interestingly,
she denied. I don't know him. He says no. He was right. He was right about everything.
Yeah, he figured it all out.
And here's the thing, he had nothing to gain.
No,
he had nothing
other
to gain.
than brownie points.
Yeah,
Candy.
He already didn't even need that because he ran the fucking show.
Yeah.
Okay. He did it because he was fucking mean.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. That's why I'm not going to argue with you if you tell me that you think Steven is a bigger villain than Calvin Candy was, because like I said, he was like really wily and cunning and stuff like that, and he knew enough. He could have used his position and his intelligence and stuff like that to, again, like I said, fight back against the system. Although that's, you know, not super realistic concerning, due to the, like, what was going on at the time. Because where the fuck would you go? You know what I mean?
No, Steven loved the system.
Yeah.
He loved the
He benefited from it very much.
He never would have gotten the power that he got.
And he would just fuck over anybody.
Yeah.
He didn't care.
Yeah, he was benefiting from it.
Yeah.
He never would have amounted to anything without it, because he believed he built that plantation. He called it Candyland. He was there forever.
Yeah, he was the guy that came. I mean, I thought the assumption was, because remember that great scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and the skull?
Yeah.
Old Ben, who was I'm assuming was Steven's predecessor. So then Steven came before that, and Steven had raised him. Yes, so he was like a father figure.
Yeah,
kind of.
Well, you notice fucking he could insult.
Yeah.
He could insult fucking
They
Candy.
talked like equals.
Yeah. He goes,
more or less.
Did you miss me, Steven? Hell no, I didn't miss your ass. And he said this shit, just fucking funny, you know. Yeah. But no, I didn't miss you. Just, you know.
It was just, I really liked
just fucking a lot of banter back and forth.
I liked the dynamic between them though, because it's like, even though
they were in a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it was just like, it wasn't necessarily a relationship of equals, because I don't even think that people back then would have even conceived of that.
Mm-mm.
But because obviously he was still, like, you know, Candy was still in charge. He was the one with all the money, and he was the one that owned him or whatever. But it just seemed like Steven had gotten to a point where he could just, like, subvert everything, and he didn't get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So they were almost like friends, but they weren't quite on equal footing.
Steven just enjoyed the power.
Yeah.
He enjoyed the power over all those black people.
That's probably as high up as he could get in that system.
I think that's part of what.
And he just didn't want to. He didn't want anything to fuck with that.
Yeah. And when Django shows up, he's a free man. He's freaking out. You're not going to let him sleep in this house. Not in this house.
Yeah.
Not in that bed. You know, just.
What, you don't let him sleep in the big house?
He did not want black people sleeping in the big house and shit. Just
like on equal with white people. Yeah. And it was just kind of like. And I mean, the whole thing too, like at the end, like after Django and Dr. Schultz's ruse gets found out by Steven.
Yeah.
Steven is talking about all this stuff that's been done to like other slaves previously that ran away or, you know, did other things that, you know, the master didn't like or whatever. And he's like, and he thought that wasn't good enough. So he suggested to Laura, the sister who was now running the thing, that they should send him to this fucking mine or this work camp where he'd just get like fucking worked to death.
And then when he died, they just...
So he wanted him to suffer. Yeah. And then like he was going to cut his nuts off. He got Walter Goggins in there and he was going to cut his nuts off.
He didn't order that though.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
He didn't order that. Yeah.
But it was his idea to like send Django to the work camp.
Yeah, the white dudes in there, they were kind of like the slave handlers. They were super white trash. One of them fucking, you couldn't barely understand what he said. It was just, I don't know if his tongue was cut out or
I
what.
assumed that his tongue had been cut out or he was super, super drunk.
You couldn't understand what he was saying. They had him hanging upside down. This is after he kills Candy. Or Candy gets killed. It was actually the other guy, the German guy, killed him. But then they killed a bunch of guys in there trying to, in an attempt to escape with the girl. Broomhild. They had him hanging upside down, and Steven comes in. You know, they've been talking about all these different ways to punish you for this shit. A lot of them having to do with your junk, basically. With your and they want to cut all that off, cut your nuts off. And I told him, I said, don't do it, because I've seen them do it. That you bleed out within about 10 minutes and then you're dead. He says, that's not good enough, you know. He goes to all the things that he's seen, and he says it's too quick. He says, we're going to sell you to this mining company.
Because it wasn't good enough that he just dies. He wanted him to like suffer for a long time first.
So I don't know if I've never heard of anything like that existed, but they probably did have companies that used slave
I don't doubt it.
Where they were kind of like, it was kind of like a prison in a way, where you would sell a slave that kept fucking up or committing crimes or trying to run away, and as a threat, you know, we'll sell you to these guys and they'll just work you to death. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that existed, because the railroads kind of did that to Irish and Chinese.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another fucking.
Which is that's a whole.
We could do a whole show on that.
We could do a whole show about that.
And a lot of that was hidden.
Yeah, they don't really talk about that much.
They have fucking torn up old railroad tracks from hundreds of years ago. And on the side of the fucking railroad tracks, they dig down in there and find mass graves with hundreds of Chinese and Irish just fucking stacked in there.
Yep.
Buried. With no records of what happened. And all I could think of is the railroads had their own security groups.
Yep.
They also had their own courts system.
Yep.
They could fucking sentence an employee to death.
Yep.
That's how powerful the railroads used to be.
Yeah.
I think what it was is that they would sometimes not pay those guys. Maybe they didn't pay them for months, and then there'd be riots, labor riots, because out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
They can't walk away from a train. That's where all the food is. There's no fucking neighborhoods and shit.
Yeah.
There's no cities out there.
Can't go to 7-Eleven.
So they're like, we haven't paid us in months, bitch. That's the way I imagine it. You haven't paid us in months. We got to send some of this money back home. And they're like, nah, we'll pay you later. We don't have the money yet. We'll pay you later. And then there'd be an uprising, and them dudes would fucking pull out guns and just fucking waste them.
Yeah, and just, they're like, we got lots more where you came from.
Yeah, and then they get on a telegraph and they go, fucking, we had a revolt. Send us some more workers. And they just send a train down the track with a whole new crew of Chinese and Irish and just replace them. And then they'd cover that shit up like it never happened.
Yep. That happened a lot.
It happened a lot.
It happened a lot.
Yeah.
So, great. Not great. I mean, I kind of feel like, I don't know, I haven't been to school a long time. We didn't learn about that in school. No. I learned about that later. I kind of hope they're teaching that now, but I don't know.
A lot of the weird shit like that happened in the United States didn't have anything to do with governments. You say, well, that was America, Now it was corporations doing it.
Yep.
The railroads.
Yep.
Railroads are fucking
like
horrible.
I said, you had enough fucking money.
Yeah.
They just wanted the shit done. And you were just a cog in the machine, man. You were not a person to them.
They gave a fuck about you.
Nope. They would just like wipe them all out.
Yeah, and the sad thing is I don't think it's changed.
No, it probably
I don't think it's changed. I think it's exactly the same. Just we don't know. They can't get away with it as openly as they used to. Everybody's got cell phones.
Well, I mean, that's good, at least.
But that same mentality. They do it if
back
they could.
then,
yeah.
there wasn't fuck all anyone could do about it, which is scary. Like, nowadays, at least there'd probably be some blowback. I don't know if...
Yeah.
But,
working children to death in fucking steel mills. Yeah. That's another thing they used to do.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's just kind of like... In a lot of ways, people can piss and moan, but, man, shit was so much worse back then. You would really, really not want to go back to that time period. ever.
And slavery was only one of the fucking.
That's what I
ways
mean.
you could get
And that
killed.
was super fucked up, but there was like all kind of other fucked
Bunch
up
of other
shit
shit
going
that
on.
was happening.
Bunch of other
and
fucked up
people
shit.
forget. People don't realize how rampant and how deadly and how inhumane prostitution was in this era.
That too.
They would just lie to girls, make them sign a contract that they're going to go work at a hotel as a fucking room cleaner, and next thing you know, she's in a brothel. She didn't agree to any of that.
Nope.
Yeah, there was no way out of it.
And you're stuck. Like, you get there and they take all your shit, and it's just kind of like, well,
and then
you
gotta
got to do
work
this
out
now.
Yeah.
Look, you signed the thing.
Yeah.
Tough shit.
Tough shit. And if you ran, they could send you in prison.
Yep.
Debtor's prison.
Yep. Which I'm glad they don't have those anymore. Holy crap. Everybody be in jail.
Yeah. There's no such thing as declaring bankruptcy back then.
Nope.
You went to prison.
Yeah.
Because they considered it stealing.
Yeah, Xánada said, I'm glad you guys liked this one. Now you've seen all
yeah.
Tarantino's fight. Yeah, I loved this. Honestly, I really did. I loved every minute of this. And like I said, can we talk about Christoph Waltz for a second? I've always really liked him as an actor. And obviously, like in the Tarantino's movie before this, Inglourious Bastards, he played the villain. He played like a horrible Nazi motherfucker. But in this one, he plays a good guy. And he's great. I love the just the camaraderie between the two of them. Like Jamie Foxx's character Django, he doesn't really talk a lot. He's very stoic. So I kind of feel like Dr. Schultz is kind of more, because he's European, he's very worldly and urbane, and the hilarious thing is he uses like pretty normal words. Like one of the funniest scenes, like they're all at the table at Candy's house, and he uses the word panache.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Candy doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what that means.
He gets out of it though.
And he's
just
just,
says, it just means,
Yeah. You know.
I mean,
Tell him, because he doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know what it means. Because he's kind of an idiot. And like I said, and he's trying to portray this, very francophile. I'm very refined, like a European, blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't know shit about shit. And it's just like, and it's very funny that he gets like called out on this, like at every opportunity. But like he kind of gets away with it a little bit. But it's just kind of funny. And I don't even think that Schultz didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. I mean, he just knows that word, so he used it.
Yeah, Candy's not stupid.
No,
he's not dumb. It's just that he's not real refined or genteel.
Like he's pretending.
Like
to
he's
be.
pretending to be.
Yeah,
and he's guys got to remember these plantations were in the country, so these are country people.
Yeah,
with money, lots of money and lots of power, but they're still in the country. In Mississippi in this era, the reason why he's talking about France is that the hub of Southern culture at this time was New Orleans. And you could get there by stagecoach within a day. And they'd spend there weeks at a time sometimes, and then come back from New Orleans. And New Orleans, of course, used to be French. As a matter of fact, it was purchased, at this time, the Louisiana Purchase already happened by this time. So it was part of the United States at this time. But originally it was Spanish, owned by the Spanish, and then it was owned by the French. And that's where the big ports were. That's where all the big towns were. And it was high-end, very high-end place. So all the rich guys would go there to party. They had apartments in downtown New Orleans that they would stay in. A lot of times they'd have like octoroon and quadroon mistresses living in those apartments too. And with another family, like a second family. So that's why he's big into this French thing.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
That was the big city.
Well,
if you were in Mississippi, that was the big city.
Yeah.
So,
well, and
that's where all the cool shit was.
French culture in general at around this time period was seen as like the pinnacle of refined culture.
Yeah.
Just kind of in general. In
so
Western
the scenes
society.
down in New Orleans. But he's a country guy in Mississippi with a shit ton of money. He's got he's got the clout money wise, and he's got the brains, but he doesn't quite have the breeding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's a little insecure about that, clearly.
he's probably second generation money, maybe third generation. But did his dad or his granddad build the place? According,
I think it was his grandfather.
His granddad, you're right. So you're not talking about old money, really.
Xánada said there's a children's graveyard 30 miles from where I live from kids who died working in the Nevada silver mines. Yeah. I mean, it's an ugly part of history, but that shit happened. So,
it was all that damn Oliver Twist era fucking where
even though that was Britain, but yeah.
But it was that.
Same kind of shit happened here.
Could I have some more bread, sir?
Yeah. Same kind of shit happened here too.
Yeah, and it didn't matter where you were. New York was a fucking hellhole at this time.
Everywhere was a hellhole.
Everywhere, fucking yeah.
I would not go back in time.
New York was in the 1800s. New York was a trap. That's where a lot of guys would get off the boat, and like 70% of them never made it out of fucking New York. Never. They'd end up in these fucking weird housing situations where they were living in these fucking apartments with 100 people in a damn fucking section, and then had to work all day in some local factory. And really, they just were barely able to pay their rent in that thing and have food. They never had enough money to get out of there. They never had enough money to get married. So they died childless, a lot of them, in New York, these ghettos that they had. And it was like a trap. To survive it, you did not want to stay in New York. You got off the boat, and any money you had to move west. So when you got there, you'd have a little bit of money, and the environment was better. You could move up. And it's more sanitary, too, man. The water was bad. The food was fucking bad. No refrigeration. Everything was rotten that they ate. But you couldn't live in a city.
They didn't have the technology we have nowadays. Like, so any kind of real packed city like that is, by definition, going to be, like, horribly unsanitary.
Yeah, you really couldn't live in a city back then unless you had a lot of money. If you were a modern person, you got a time machine and went back to fucking New York, 1800s, especially mid-1800s, you'd fucking hate it. You'd like, man, get me out of here. You'd be better off in the country. At least the food and the water was fresh.
You're fresher.
Yeah. Well, no, you might have killed that shit. You go out there and kill a chicken and eat it, you know?
Yeah. Xánada said, I still want you guys to do a show on the damn Pinkertons. Yeah, I mean, I put it in the poll every now and then.
I thought we did that.
No.
All right.
I have it in my list, and I keep putting it in the thing for the poll, but it never wins. It never wins. CB said, yeah, Jack the Ripper was a wake-up call to clean up the slums in the 1800s. Yeah, for real. Like, late 1800s. But yeah, so what was I saying before? Oh, yeah. So Christoph Waltz got a Academy Award for this. For Best Supporting Actor, even though I would argue that he's kind of the co-lead, honestly.
Who?
Christoph Waltz, the guy that played Dr. Schultz.
Yeah.
I love him. Like, he's great in everything. And he's particularly great in this. I just really, really like I said, I really like the interaction between their two characters. I really like that there's a great scene toward the beginning when he first kind of hooks up with Django, where he's European. They don't really have the same, history with slavery that the U.S. had at that point. And I was reading something earlier about how the Germans in particular in this time period pre-Civil War were actually largely anti-slavery. So that's historically accurate. His character would have been historically accurate. And the fact that he immediately treats him like an equal, but he does say to him at the beginning when they first go to that town and shoot that sheriff and everything, is that, well, he's like, I hate slavery, but I like that I bought your freedom, so now I can, tell you what to do, for a little while.
Says you're my responsibility.
Because, well, that was kind of later, after they'd kind of established a rapport, and he's like, hey, you want to be a bounty hunter? You're really good at this. And then he kind of, trained him in it for a while. And then, but they became such close friends. That's why Schultz went with him to go get his wife back. You know what I mean? Because he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go with them. He could have just said, hey, good luck. Because he told him, he's like, well, we'll, over the winter, we'll make all this money, doing the bounty hunting, and then I'll give you, however much percentage of the profits, and you're free. You can do whatever you want. So Schultz didn't have to go with him to get his wife back, but I guess, the friendship that, developed, and he, liked him so much and respected him so much that he's like, well, I'm going to help you go get your wife back. You know what I mean? Because like I said, he hated slavery, and I guess it was like a principle issue also. So he's like really, other than Django, who's, you know, nominally the good guy, but I would argue that probably Schultz is, like, morally at least, like, the good guy in the movie. Although he kills a lot of people. But that's kind of interesting because he's, like, morally the best guy in the movie, but he's also a bounty hunter. But the people that he's killing, you could argue, are criminals. They're outlaws.
Yeah.
But man, he'll just like sit up on a ridge and just go pop and just like not even think two ways about it.
Because they were wanted dead or alive.
Right. And he's just like, I just want the money. Good. So I liked that they kind of went into that, I don't know, like that kind of moral quagmire of here's like a nice dude, but he makes his living just shooting out like from far away, just popping
it's
them.
Never a stand-up fight. It's always through trickery.
Yeah. So I like that they I like that they kind of went into that because no one is like 100% good person or bad person in this one, and I thought that made it like better. Even though, like I said, even though this is obviously not super realistic, like a lot of the stuff in it is based on real shit that happened, but it's not. It's more based on genre movies.
More based on
about it, which weren't realistic either. No. And, you know, and like I said,
about the vibe of the movie and the edit.
And Tarantino, nobody expects Tarantino movies to be realistic, for Christ's sake. I mean, he makes revisionist history movies, and he's very open about that, and he's very open about the movies that he drew from and, like, the inspirations that he had for making it. So, you know, so you can't really, like, shit on him in that regard, because it's not like he's ripping stuff off and...
If you're a fan of this movie and you want to see something that was more realistic about a guy like this, that series on Bass Reeves would be out. That's what I would look at.
Yeah, and like I said, we did a show about him a couple of times.
Bass Reeves was a real man.
Which most of y'all probably saw.
Yeah, Bass Reeves was a real guy, and he was more like this.
Yeah, like I said, Jamie Foxx's character in this,
bounty hunter.
Yeah,
really a bounty hunter.
Gave me like a.
He was a U.S. Marshal, I think, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. Which was kind of like a bounty hunter. That he was going out collecting fucking rewards.
I mean, it was pretty much the same thing. Like that's why I kind of got that vibe from this one too. Yeah, Bryce said I thought it was so funny how Candy didn't understand French but pretended to speak French. Yeah, that's the thing. It was just this, like I said, veneer of civility, even though he was obviously a horrible, horrible person. But like that was, like I said, that was kind of one of the themes of the movie is just like, look at all this pretty frippery that we put on these people who are just like monsters. I think
it's more accurate to say he was trying to elevate his social status, trying to pretend that he was a higher class than he really was.
Yeah.
They're just glorified fucking up middle class, really, is all they were. Glorified middle class.
Yeah.
He wasn't an upper class guy.
Yeah, Xánada said there's a good chemistry between all the actors on this one. I think maybe this is why this one resonated for me a lot more. I liked Inglourious Bastards too, but I think I liked this one a lot more just because, I don't know, I just liked the interplay of all the actors. I think every single actor in this was perfect, and just their interactions was really good. Oh, we should note that Quentin Tarantino does have a cameo in this, as he does in a lot of his movies. Yeah. With an Australian accent.
Yeah, which isn't bad. It's
actually not bad. He's only in it for like 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes. And then he gets blown up. So.
Yeah, and you know, me and Quentin got something in common. Me and Tarantino went to the same middle school together. Dominguez Elementary. He was a couple years older than me. But I remember him. I remember his name. Friends that stayed there longer remembered him working at the video store up down the street from the school, over where El Ranchito's Mexican restaurant used to be. Yeah, but he's in the movie. He does a pretty good job. But I tell you what, man, come on. He stands out. He sticks out to the rest of the cast.
I mean, he's not an actor.
Well, I looked at him. He just looks soft as hell. Too clean, too soft. You could tell that he's a civilized person. Everybody else looks real fucking rugged.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that he actually wasn't supposed to be in this movie. Yeah. That the actor playing that role, and it's, like I said, it's a cameo. Yeah. If the glorified cameo, if that. It's like less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But I heard that the actor couldn't do it or something like that, so he just stepped in and did it because it's like one scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, though.
He looks a little too clean and a little too soft, you know.
Yeah. He's not super distracting. Like, I know that some people really, really don't like him showing up in his movies. Like, the whole, the whole N-word storage thing, like, from Pulp Fiction, and, like, people don't really like that. I don't mind him in that, but I will agree that he's a fucking brilliant director, but he's not an actor. I mean, those are two different skill sets. And so some people are, like, really distracted, like, when he turns up in his own movies, because, like, it takes them out of the story. But in this one, honestly, he's in it for such a short time. You're just kind of like, hey, it's Quentin Tarantino, and then he gets blown up. You know what I mean? It's literally, like, less than 2 minutes later, so it doesn't really bother me all that much. Most people say that they liked him from Dusk Till Dawn, but because he's kind of playing like a psychopath, but when he's kind of trying to, but like I said, I don't mind it all that much, but I will admit that he's not really a good actor. So it does kind of, and the thing about Quentin Tarantino is he's so recognizable that it's kind of hard to see him as, you know what I mean? Because he's such a character, so it's kind of hard to see him as, like, someone else, I guess. He can't really vanish into a role, I suppose.
Well, you hungry?
Yeah, I'm kind of hungry. All right. Yeah, Xánada said they said the N-word 119 times in this movie, which some people took offense to, but it's just the movie. Well, the thing about it is that, you could argue that, yeah, a lot of Quentin Tarantino's movies use the N-word, like, excessively. And you could argue that Tarantino is just getting off, and he's like, hey, I'm the only white dude that's allowed to, like, put people, like, that can use this word. But in this movie, I would argue in its defense, because that is absolutely how a lot of people back then talked. So, is it excessive? Maybe, but it's just, like, people back then did talk like that, and they did talk in those terms. So, it's probably a little bit exaggerated, but it didn't really throw me out of anything, because that's how people talked back then. That's a word that they used, pretty excessively. So it does. So of all the movies that you could argue that he used the N-word too much, I don't think this is a good one to. This is not a good one to, like, argue that point. You know what I mean? Because this is at least somewhat historically accurate. You know what I mean? So we're going to wrap it up for this evening. So hopefully you guys had a good time. Thank you very much again, Xánada, for sending us this movie. I loved this. I had a great time with it. We just watched it last night, and I just had a blast. It was, like, so funny and just really entertaining and also kind of horrifying at the same time, which, like I said, really good balance to pull off. So hopefully you guys can drop by on Wednesday night for the show. What the hell is the show about? I don't even remember. Oh, Leopold and Loeb. We're finally doing a show about Leopold and Loeb. Two guys who thought they were going to commit the perfect crime back in the 1920s. Spoiler alert, they were kind of idiots, even though they thought they were super smart, which is always kind of my favorite thing to pick on. So we're going to do a show about Leopold and Loeb on Wednesday night. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thanks, everybody, for dropping by. And have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys again on Wednesday.